Okay, we will get started. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to 2025. This is our first webinar of our Strong Start and Beyond series for 2025. And the topic today is planning for the future, preconception wellness. And we've got some amazing speakers and partners that are going to be presenting. Can I have the next slide, please? So as a reminder, I want to clarify my role as California Surgeon General. I know sometimes that question comes up, but really my role as Surgeon General for California is to serve as the leading spokesperson on the most pressing public health issues of our time. The role of the office is to convene and communicate with partners and the public. And my office does not develop, administer, or fund programs. So I want to clarify that. Next slide, please. So in terms of logistics, so all attendees are muted and we are using the Q&A function in the Zoom on the bottom to respond to questions, and we'll do our best to respond to those questions during the webinar. We welcome your feedback. Here is our email, and at the end, it will be shown again. And finally, the session is being recorded and will be available later on our YouTube channel. Next slide. Today, we're going to be covering not only preconception health from a professional standpoint and resource, and Kasey Rivas will be sharing that with us. And also, we're going to hear a story from Bertha Pérez-Sánchez, who really has compelling experience as to the role that preconception health could have in her life and her recommendation for others on preconception health. And we're going to be closing with a highlight on PRIMA, our preconception medical assessment quiz that will be live later on this month. And finally, share some information for upcoming opportunities, communication, and resources. So we've got a full agenda. And again, please feel free to use the Q&A section on the bottom of your Zoom video. Next slide, please. So we're going to start with Kasey Rivas. Kasey Rivas has over 15 years of experience in program and grant management. She currently serves as Associate Director of Strategic Partnerships for the March of Dimes, where she co-leads efforts to engage cross-sector partners and build a national movement to achieve maternal and infant health. So Kasey, I have asked to speak on behalf of the March of Dimes. I've had the opportunity to work with the March of Dimes pretty much my entire career. They are an amazing partner with resources, not only for health professionals, for the public, but more importantly, in investments in helping research cross-cutting opportunities as to what the future can hold for ways of improvement in improving perinatal health. So with that, I'm happy to turn it over to Kasey, who is going to highlight the work that the March of Dimes has been doing for years on preconception health. Kasey, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramos. I appreciate you for inviting me here today and having the opportunity to share the impactful work of March of Dimes that we are doing to empower and support individuals and families on their reproductive health journeys. Today, I am going to focus on the resources we offer, particularly around preconception health, which we know plays a vital role in shaping healthy pregnancies and outcomes. But before I dive into those specifics, I do want to take a moment to highlight our legacy and ongoing efforts to raise awareness and provide trusted resources to communities to advance equitable health outcomes for all moms and babies. Next slide. So some of you may know our mission or be familiar with it, but I did want to share it. March of Dimes is leading the fight for the health of all moms and babies, aiming to ensure that every family has access to quality care and the resources they need, regardless of socioeconomic, racial, and geographic barriers. Next slide. We have two clear goals: to end preventable maternal risks and deaths and end preventable preterm birth and infant death. We know to achieve these goals, we will have to close the health equity gap to realize our vision of a world where every mom and baby is healthy, regardless of wealth, race, and geography. Next slide. We're going to reach these goals by leveraging our reach and channeling our resources to educate, advocate, innovate, and collaborate. We build really meaningful partnerships from all different organizations from across the nation to do this work together with them. And we hope that some of you will do the work with us as well. Next slide. But first, to take a step back, we've been doing this work for a long time. Since 1938, March Dimes has been pioneering force in improving the health of moms and babies. Originally focused on eradicating polio, March Dimes' mission evolved to address the broader needs of maternal and infant health. Our work touches nearly every family, if not every family, in some way, from vaccines to newborn screenings. March Dimes' contributions have shaped public health advancements in the US and beyond. Through decades of innovation, March Dimes has improved birth outcomes by increasing access to prenatal care and addressing health disparities. Whether through our efforts to educate, advocate, innovate, and collaborate, March Dimes' impact has been far reaching to ensure healthier futures for millions. Next slide. Here's just a snapshot of some of the things that March Dimes has done over the years. I did want to note some of the key successful consumer awareness campaigns since we're here to talk a little bit about resources and awareness. So I've circled here in pink, starting in the 70s with our Be Good to Your Baby Before It's Born campaign. And after this, I'm going to reach out to my mom to ask her if she knows about this campaign because I was born in the 70s. But many of you likely remember some of our more recent campaigns, including the folic acid campaign and our Healthy Babies Are Worth the Wait campaign. Our newest consumer awareness campaign, It Starts with Mom, is addressing information and resource sharing in all new ways. And I'm going to share more about that work later in this talk. But before that, next slide. These are the different ways that we're advancing our mission and vision. We're by supporting and through support and education, programs, research, partnerships, data, and advocacy. Today, I'm really going to focus on that support and education arm of our work, where we're focusing on critical preconception health resources available to consumers. Next slide. So one of the key strategies for March Dimes is to increase consumer awareness and knowledge when it comes to their reproductive health journey. And one of the ways we're doing that is through our signature campaign, It Starts with Mom. The campaign shares key information about getting ready to be a mom, navigating pregnancy, and managing changes after the baby's been born. There are 3 components to the It Starts with Mom campaign, including sharing of trusted health education, engaging in social media channels and beyond to achieve a broad reach, and aligning with partners with shared goals to amplify our voice and reach. Next slide. We know that there's a vital need to broadly share health information since we are a trusted resource, and we're doing just that. When it comes to preconception health, we know that preparing for pregnancy, even before conception, that you can reduce the risk of complications such as preterm birth, low birth weight, as well as other complications. Managing chronic conditions prior to conception can contribute to reducing preventable maternal morbidity and mortality. But we also know there's many barriers that exist when it comes to consumer awareness about preconception health, including the inequitable access to healthcare services and information, and the prevalence of misinformation, particularly through unregulated digital platforms. I think we're all aware of the misinformation that's out there in general. Many of the popular pregnancy apps and websites have been developed outside of healthcare organizations, which has led to the not prioritizing accuracy or clarity of information. The March of Dimes It Starts with Mom campaign is not only prioritizing accuracy and clarity, but it's ensuring inclusion of both experts and consumers in the development of materials and live discussions. The campaign starts with preconception health as a foundational step for healthy pregnancies and families. March of Dimes is providing trusted resources such as guides, planning for pregnancy, the importance of folic acid, and managing chronic conditions. March Dimes also recognizes the importance of culturally and linguistically tailored resources, offering many of our materials in both English and Spanish to reach diverse communities. Next slide. So all this to say, like, you're probably like, how do we find all this information? So I do want to quickly share how you can navigate our March of Dimes resources, and I'm going to share a few different ways to do that. So first, I'm going to share one example where you can click on Find Support on our main header, and it's going to bring you to a main page that says Find Support. And there's many different options here, but I'm going to share two of those options today that's going to bring you to the preconception health information. So first, if you click Learn More, it's going to open this page with these green boxes where you can navigate through your pregnancy journey as you choose. So in this instance for preconception health, you would click on planning for baby, and then that will open up an option to browse topics by exploring all baby planning topics. Or you can use the search term preconception health or any other search term someone wishes, and you're going to get a list of items that you can further refine depending on the type of information you want or different health topics. And there is a wealth of information there, so definitely you can use a multitude of different search terms and find the information that you might want. Next slide. The second option from the Find Support page would be to click It Starts with Mom. This would be I would choose this because I think the information is a little bit more easily navigatable. I don't know if that's a word, but so if you click It Starts with Mom, next slide. It's going to bring up a similar option of choosing where you're at in your journey, whether it's planning, pregnant, postpartum, and then there's also an option to connect, which I'm going to share a little bit about here in a minute. But if you click on planning, people will find a wealth of information and links. Next slide. This page called Getting Ready to Be a Mom will pop up, and it includes resources like one-pagers, guides, blogs, planners, infographics, and many of these resources are available in both English and Spanish, such as planning ahead, folic acid, helpful tips, and chronic health conditions. People can also find a space to share their own stories and join other individuals and families in the March of Dimes community, which I absolutely love that there's space to do that. All right, next slide. So the other option from this It Starts with Mom page that I did want to share today is Connect, because Connect is going to get you to some really cool information. So next slide. So by clicking here, you're going to find our It Starts with Mom live page where people can access upcoming and past live events. They can find other ways to engage and hear from our experts, like our Modcast podcast that features discussions with our researchers, as well as information about our data and reports, because some people just love to dig into data. I'm one of those people. I'm a data person. Our live discussions feature moms alongside experts discussing various aspects about the reproductive health journey. And this past year, we hosted our first live event in Spanish, and hopefully more to come because it was really, really well received by many of our constituents. So there's a wealth of information for people to access to learn more. These are just some of the key preconception health resources available from our English language website. And as noted, you can get some of the Spanish language materials here as well, but we also host a Spanish language website, and some people don't know that. So next slide. So our March of Dimes Spanish language site, Nacer Sano, hosts information for people, again, across their reproductive health journey. So for example, by clicking on Preconception, we'll bring up a page with preconception health information available in Spanish. Clicking on the different topics will open a new page with more detailed information. A lot of those also include short videos discussing the topic. And we have an incredible consumer education leader, Juvisa Rodriguez, who is working on further building out this site and adding to the resources in the coming year, which I'm really excited about because it's something I've been wanting to see. So I think throughout this next year or two, we're going to see our Spanish language site being built up and bolstered even more. So very excited about that. Next slide. So I did, after showing all of this navigating, I wanted to share an example of what consumer information might actually look like once people get there. And the example I'm going to show you here in a second is related to our low dose aspirin campaign. So last year we launched a new low dose big benefits, low dose aspirin campaign to mitigate the adverse effects of preeclampsia in at-risk pregnant individuals that uses a multi-pronged approach that includes consumer education and awareness. It also includes training healthcare providers and professionals, pharmacy professionals, and also implementing QI protocols. So on the next slide, you're going to see what someone might find if they get to our low dose big benefits page. Next slide. So here you can see some of the consumer-facing materials, including infographics, handouts, and FAQs available in both English and Spanish. These are consumer facing, but we also have provider facing materials that will help support discussions between individuals and their providers. So we have both sides of the story. We have, if you're a consumer, these are some things you might want to consider. And for the provider, what you might want to consider if you're going to have a discussion about low-dose aspirin with your patient. So we're trying to bring all the pieces together to improve outcomes. Campaigns like this, when paired with other solutions and policies, so a great example might be implementing self-measured blood pressure programs, can lead to improving maternal and infant health outcomes and are a step towards ending preventable maternal and infant morbidity and mortality, which is not just a March of Dimes goal, but I know one of the goals of Dr. Ramos and the new maternal health initiative. So this is all really exciting because I think our work really aligns with the things that are happening here in California. Next slide. So as March of Dimes continues to be a trusted source for accurate evidence-based resources for individuals, together with our partners, we hope to continue to amplify our reach and increase awareness about the importance of the entire reproductive health continuum while prioritizing strategies that pair consumer education and awareness with actionable solutions and policies. We also understand the importance, how important it is to reach people where they live, where they're working, where they're having fun, and sharing information in and with communities through trusted community-based organizations and leaders is really integral to this work being successful. And I think this is where we really align with the Prima, the new tool that's coming out, and all this great work that's happening here in California. So I'm going to hand it back to Dr. Ramos. And again, thank you for having me share about our resources.
Thank you so much, Kasey. As everyone can see, the work that the March of Dimes is doing is exceptional, and it really is complementing all of the initiatives and the focus that we're working on. I love the fact that you have that data center, the data center for those of you who are looking for data, whether it's just to know what's happening in your community. It's broken down specifically in California by counties, depending upon what data piece you're looking for. There's also data on outcomes in preterm birth rate. There's also the report cards that are put out by the March of Dimes. March of Dimes is really an amazing partner. So thank you, Kasey, for highlighting some of the resources. And as you can see, the Nacer Sano website in Spanish is a great resource, not only for those who partner with those who care for pregnant people, but also for the public as well. So there's a diversity of reach and a diversity of information. So thank you, Kasey. Preconception health really is one of the key resources, one of the key items that we can focus on in order to improve perinatal outcomes from before a pregnancy occurs, preconception. So sometimes, though, we need to hear it. And if I can have the next slide, we need to hear how an initiative can make an impact on someone's life. And that's where Bertha Pérez-Sánchez comes in. I've had the pleasure of working with Bertha on and being on several webinars highlighting the importance of preconception health, highlighting the importance of care before pregnancy. And I was really compelled because she provides her story not only in English, but in Spanish. And as we know in California, 48% of the births are to Latina women. And so really to hear the information coming from somebody that looks like you, that has perhaps been through a similar experience as you, makes a difference. So Bertha is joining us from Fresno. She considers herself an initiative-taking individual, always open to a new challenge. She is a Chicana daughter, sister, aunt, friend, and wife who has been married for over 16 years. She has three magnificent children, her quinceañera, Valeria, her recent teenager, Raimundo, and her force of nature, Robertito, who daily inspire her to evolve as a wife, mother, and human being. So Bertha, I'm going to ask that you please share your story as to your pregnancy experience and complications, and we'll take it from there because I think your story really highlights the importance of increasing awareness education can make in terms of future health. So the stage is yours, Bertha. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctora Ramos, and thank you, everyone. So I'm going to share my testimonial as far as my fourth pregnancy. In 2019, at the age of 38 years old, I became pregnant. I had my baby during the pandemic in 2020, and this was by far the hardest pregnancy of all that I've had. I believe the combination of my age as well as my health and starting this pregnancy being overweight didn't really help the case. Also stress due to the pandemic and trying to maintain social distances and deter getting COVID at the time was really hard and truly impacted my pregnancy for sure. So during the second trimester, after having some lab work done, I was diagnosed by my doctor with gestational diabetes. She referred me to a diabetes specialist who at first helped me to try to navigate because obviously I was really trying to deter getting insulin. And so I was trying to manage my diabetes with a strict diet, doing some exercise, also making sure that I was testing myself 3 times a day, learning what foods were impacting me the most and increasing my sugar, my blood sugar levels to increase. But none of that really worked for me. I was unsuccessful, even though I was trying to do my best. It wasn't possible. So ultimately, thanks to the diabetes specialist, I was able to learn how to utilize the insulin and when it was useful for me to utilize it. I continue to monitor my sugar levels as well. And in the last trimester, because of the history of me having children who were bigger than many kids, probably maybe the average. So my first one was 9.2 pounds and then my second one being 8.6 pounds. With that history, my doctor referred me to the hospital to monitor not only the baby's weight but also the heartbeat. And in one occasion I got quite scared because the hospital staff opted to keep me longer than expected to further monitor my baby's heartbeat, just because there were some abnormalities through it. And so I was not sure if I was gonna make it to have a full-term pregnancy, honestly. I was worried, and I'm sure that was definitely impacting my gestational diabetes along everything else. And so knowing those challenges through my pregnancy with gestational diabetes and the weight of my previous children being born, the doctor and I decided that it would be best for me to have a C-section. I really didn't want to put my baby at risk in any way, shape, or form. And so I also had, again, the stress of the pandemic, not knowing if my spouse was going to be present during the delivery of our child, and just the health obstacles during the pregnancy did have an impact in my well-being, emotional well-being, I would say. So I had those hard conversations with my spouse, making sure that if we encounter complications through the delivery, and having to make those life and death decisions, and really having him listen to my decision ultimately, which was if we were facing a life and death situation, he knew the option that I was choosing, and so and following through with that. So thankfully my son was born, everything turned out well. When he was born, they checked his sugar levels twice, and just to ensure that everything was normal, and thankfully everything was favorable. So now he's a healthy 4.5-year-old, a very smart, lovable, and playful little boy. So it's nice, but I also understand that I could have made some changes prior um, to being pregnant. So definitely I reinforce what Kasey and Dr. Ramos what they're mentioning here. The preconception help is so crucial and so important in supporting the Prima quiz as a reviewer. I know it's an easy and short to understand quiz that can be taken. It's available in English and Spanish. And I know Dr. Ramos is going to be going over this a little bit shortly after I conclude. But I wish the Prima quiz had been available during my pregnancies. This free tool would have helped me to be more proactive about my prenatal health as well, and just having an in-language and online tool from the comfort of my home would truly have made a difference for me. So that's a little bit of my testimonial, and I will turn it back to you, Doctora Ramos.
Gracias. Thank you, Bertha. So it sounds like you really had a lot of struggles, challenges. I mean, the pandemic really impacted all of us. And I can't even imagine with other children and then being pregnant and trying to, like you said, that stress just is not so easy. But thank you for sharing your story and your reflection back to what could have helped make things better. And also for your participation in reviewing our Prima quiz, which we're going to be talking about. And Prima has to do with the preconception medical assessment quiz that you have alluded to. You are one of over 200 reviewers that has given us the input. But preconception health does and can make a difference for many people. And it's just a starting point for a conversation. With that being said, I want to start and give a little bit of insight. I know many of you have been on the journey with us from the beginning with Strong Start and Beyond as to one of our initiatives, and that is providing a resource for people who are maybe not thinking about becoming pregnant, because half of the births in the US are unplanned. Close to half of the births are unplanned, but maybe just to think about your health first. And if you happen to choose to become pregnant or become pregnant, you then have the opportunity to have a little bit of better insight of what your current health is and how could that impact your pregnancy. So with that, if you can please go to the next slide. We want to start to talk about the Prima quiz. So when we think about innovative ideas, opportunities that folks can participate in, oftentimes really a strategy similar to what Cosmopolitan magazine did up until last year, because now they're virtual, is be where people are. And what do we mean by that? Well, when I can remember going to the supermarket and looking through the Cosmo magazine, they always had a quiz in the magazine. And the quiz was not meant to be diagnostic. The quiz was not meant to judge. The quiz was not meant to give a definitive recommendation. It was meant to start thinking about a topic. And so this is an example from one of the Cosmo quizzes that we took off the internet. And this one is your best friend really on your side? So you would answer the questions, and then based upon the number of yeses and numbers of nos, you would get a general assessment as to what the status is like. So just the overall observation. So with that in mind, one of the initiatives that Strong Start and Beyond aimed to produce was a resource so that people can have an active participation, can know how their health impacts their overall health, not just currently, but potentially if they became pregnant. So if we can have the next slide, perfect. So we released the California Maternal Health Blueprint, the Strong Start and Beyond overview, starting point of what we heard from our advisory group and input. And based upon that, one of those recommendations was to provide a resource that folks can be an active participant in their health. So we took a validated questionnaire from the OB Health Index and as also with another health index that was developed by Stanford and Dr. Little and Dr. Brian Bateman, and came up with initially 7 questions, but added an 8th question based upon the review that we received from our reviewers. So there are over 34 experts, community, health, organizations that reviewed the quiz. Now, this is just a sneak preview. We're not going into details because we are going to be, I'll be giving you more information about it. So what we did, we took that concept of the Cosmo quiz, having simple questions. So now we have 8 questions, and based upon the number of yeses is the general overview reaction of what potentially you may want to think about, or that person may want to think about. And that's what this is. So thinking about having a baby, and we really, the near final version is a result of lots of input from many of you participating, and again, many of our partners, and wanting and being reminded that this should be a positive, non-judgmental, completely optional. And this is the one thing that the healthcare teams have a hard time realizing. It is not meant to be shared with the healthcare team. And the reason why is that, similar to that Cosmo quiz that you see here on the slide, it's meant to be a personal starting point, something that a person can complete. And you just start to think about, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to do anything? So that in mind, we have put in there not only the recommendations based upon your responses, but the other thing down on the bottom is going to be 2 sites to be able to get support resources wherever people live. So there's one ca.gov and there's one findhelp.org. So these are resources. And then there's a QR code. Again, all of this final quiz is based upon input. The final QR code directs folks to the next step. So now that you completed this, what may be some things that you want to talk to your healthcare provider if you choose to go in that direction? So it's just a quick video that we produced that helps direct folks on, congratulations, you completed the Prima quiz, and now these are some things that you may want to consider. So building that bridge, building that opportunity for a continued conversation with the provider. So again, going back to the fact and hearing from what we heard from Bertha and the resources that the March of Dimes has really been investing in for years, and the importance of preconception health and how that can make a big difference. Can we have the next slide? So on January 1, 2, 3, so this is actually an official thing, I'm not making it up, January 23rd, ACOG has declared that day, ACOG National, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, as Maternal Health Awareness Day. And this has been going on for over 5 years, and it's a call out nationally on the importance of focusing on maternal health. So we used that day to launch PRIMA, the Preconception Medical Assessment. So on that day, we're going to be releasing the final PRIMA quiz along with resources for everyone to have access and to use. Included in there are the FAQ questions, as well as an issue brief as to how does this make a do it, and please help us promote. The vision of this is to have it in writing so we can print it out and post it in the laundromats, in the supermarkets, make it part of a website. The information is meant to be completed and kept by the person completing it, not to be shared unless they want with their healthcare team. More to come. So with that, can I have the next slide, please? I'd like to pull in back Bertha and Kasey and just have a quick conversation as to preconception health. Thank you so much. Kasey, for sharing the resources on the March of Dimes and the support. I know that there's a lot of information that is available, and the one thing that I do want to highlight to the audience is that March of Dimes has been very mindful in the development of their resources for the diversity of pregnant people. So from Hispanic to African American to American Indian, Asian. Thank you so much for helping shepherd and sharing those resources. Bertha, thank you so much also. And I would ask both of you, maybe starting out with you, Bertha, if you were aware of any of the preconception health resources. I mean, obviously, the resources were not available from our office, but I would say something from the March of Dimes and anything that Kasey has shared.
Honestly, no. I wasn't, and I wish I would have been more proactive in my preconception health. That's a learning. That's why I'm here. That's why I want to emphasize on the importance of it. I learn from my experience, from my learned lessons, and I'm hoping that others that are hearing us, that are seeing us, are able to be more proactive than I was.
Thank you, Bertha. Is there anything in particular that you would like or to see more, or who would you like to hear more that information more from? Where would you like to see that resource?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I went and took my little ones. I still see them as little. They're always gonna be little for me. But I took them to the theater during the winter break, and so I think theaters will be a good approach as they get the viewings, the whatever they're called prior to the actual movie. I think that would be a good approach to reach the youth. As I've heard you loud and clear, anyone who has a menstrual period is obviously able to get pregnant, and that resonated with me quite a lot, Dr. Ramos. So I think being able to reach even the youth and of course others, because I was paying close attention to all the advertisement prior to the movies. I think that would be a good approach.
That's a great recommendation. Thank you, Bertha. And Kasey, the March of Dimes has really been in the forefront of preconception health. And you highlighted some of the resources, and I just want to highlight a little bit, if you can share more. You mentioned it, you teased us with the cardiovascular piece. And in February, we're going to be focusing on heart health, one of which we know that low dose aspirin can make a difference with chronic hypertension, with patients with preeclampsia. Can you highlight maybe a little bit of the LDA resources that you have? Is that for providers only, or is that for patients? Help us understand.
Yeah. So the low dose aspirin resources so we have consumer facing resources, and I shared a couple of those, right? So there's like great infographics. There's like a checklist of like for yourself, like similar kind of, I guess, similar to the Primo, like you have a checklist and you can go through it and see if it's something that you should talk about with your provider. And there's also provider facing items, like we have a continuing education training that's available for free. So if you go to our low dose aspirin, or low dose big benefits, low dose big whatever, that site, there's a continuing education resource for providers. And then there's also discussion one pagers for providers as well, to help bring up the subject with your patients. So there's resources from both sides, and they're available for anyone. And then in addition to that low dose aspirin campaign, we also, through the Mom and Baby Action Network that I oversee, we're launching a self-measured blood pressure program overview, kind of a resource for anyone, it could be hospital systems, clinics interested in potentially implementing a self-monitored blood pressure program within their organization, to learn about the different types and levels of programs. So we do have some really exciting things happening, and we're like building that low dose aspirin campaign with many partners, including partners here in California. I'm sure you're aware and know. But yeah, we've really been intentional about how that campaign is being done, to include all of the different, like whether it's consumer, provider, as well as integrating information into social media and places where people show up. Because I love, Bertha, that you shared like that information. If I saw it like maybe in the theater or something, that's something that like, yes, as March Dimes, but as a mom too, like I know when I was pregnant, like where did I see things? Like where was the information coming from? I didn't know that March Dimes had resources related to preconception health before I was pregnant. I think I had thought in my head like, oh, March Dimes, NICU, like that was my connection. Was I thought like, like, oh, if I have an adverse outcome, that's March Dimes. But I think there's this really important time right now where like digital media and community, like we need to like leverage those spaces to really connect and reach people. And we need to be working with our partners who are in the community to do that. And so this LDA campaign is a space where we're really trying to intentionally partner with different, whether it's like big health systems or, CBOs, to really get that information out.
Thank you, Kasey. And we will move us on to Lauren, who is going to give us some information on upcoming events. Lauren, from our team, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you all for joining us. And I am going to close us out with just some reminders of what's coming up. As Dr. Ramos mentioned, in February, we will be celebrating American Heart Month. And part of that, we'll be talking about healthy hearts and healthy pregnancies during our February webinar, which will be hosted February 5th, same time, 12 o'clock. And we hope to have all of you join us again and learn from our guest speakers. And that will be focused on the intersection of cardiovascular health with maternal health. And then next slide. The other big announcement, and registration will be opening soon, is our Maternal Health Summit that we will be hosting in February as well. That will be February 20th, 9 a.m. to noon, and that will be in Sacramento. And this summit will also be focusing on improving cardiovascular health within maternal health as well. So we should be sending out registration link. We have started just today, and we'll get that out to everybody. Please join us. We'd be happy to have you at the summit. And then our next and final slide is just a reminder to partner with us on our maternal health. We use our partner list to really indicate and reach out to find out how individuals want to work with us and what can be done as we move forward. So please partner with us to improve maternal health. We're really excited to have over 80 participants today, and we hope to continue to partner with you and bring important topics to the conversation in these webinar series. And I will just say our last slide is just an announcement. We are now on LinkedIn, and so we have a LinkedIn page, and it's at California Surgeon General, CA Surgeon General. You can use the QR code that's here, and we will really be utilizing this to engage with our community and individuals more and more as we move forward. And we just invite you to network with us and follow us on our LinkedIn page. And then lastly, you can always reach us with any questions or feedback at Strong Start and Beyond at osg.ca.gov. And please keep our social media handles close and follow us, as that will be where we release all of our announcements, and also where you will be able to access the Prima toolkit and Prima itself, which we are very excited. And then just a reminder, all of the webinars will be hosted on our YouTube page. So please give us a little bit of time to get it posted, but we will have this posted. And if you have anyone you think would be interested in listening, please share. And then again, join us February 5th for our next webinar. Thank you all so much. And it was great to have you today.